Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, Benji was in and out. He's just come back. We had a few technical issues. This is going to be our SD Worx preview. We were going to try and combine a few other teams, but this is going to be just SD Worx. And to be honest, when we were doing it, we realized we had a fair bit to talk about with this team, with all the leaders and all the wins. So they get their own big old preview anyway. So just ignore what I said at the start of the pod about this being combined. We'll do some of the other major teams in the coming weeks in the Women's World Tour. But hope you enjoy it, and here it comes. SD Worx, Movistar women's team, and Canyon SRAM with probably the GOAT retiring on one of those teams. A new GOAT perhaps already starting to be crowned on SD Worx. And a real challenger team in Canyon SRAM who broke out from a few years of sort of middling doldrum results when we thought they could have done better. But is there any other team? With Trek Benji, I don't see them. I thought they were going to be the challenger team. If we look at the Women's World Tour in 23, I thought Trek were going to challenge SD Worx more.
Yeah, they certainly were strong during that year. If we take a look at the riders they have in their squad, like Balsamo, for example, with a combination of Elisa Longo-Borghini and then Ellen van Dijk, those riders really had a really good year 2 years ago. But Balsamo got injured, Van Dijk had maternity leave, and Longo-Borghini just can't climb as well as Vollering. So that matters. And in addition to that, we saw one of the greater transfers of the last 2 years, two of the greatest transfers of the last 2 years. SD Worx got better after Van der Breggen left because Kopecky was signed and Wiebes was signed. And Van der Breggen was amazing, but you can fix the volume of wins that you lose by those two riders plus Vollering getting better. And that's exactly what happened. So Little Trek just can't compete against that at this very moment. So I'm not seeing it directly, but hey, we always hope for competition. And today we are going to focus on SD Worx, Movistar, and Canyon SRAM. And let's start off with SD Worx, because we've got a team with 62 victories in 2023. That is actually insane. 40 of those victories are World Tour. And they're not some washed up World Tour Mickey Mouse races. Tour de France GC with Vollering. Second with Kopecky. We've got 4 stages with Kopecky, Wiebes, Vollering, and Reusser. They probably could have won more if they played it a little different. That's the crazy part about this. They've got 62 victories, but with some tactical changes, they might win more than the ones they have. They won Omloop, RVV, Simoclades through all those kind of races with Kopecky, and then Vollering with a stunning season next to the Tour, Strade, Amstel, Flesch, LBL, so the triple crown when it comes to the Hill Classics. Burgos, Romandy, and then we haven't even spoken about again Dwevelgem, Metsuya, and Swiss that Reusser ended up winning. And those are not the only victories, because I think Ploe was won by European champion. What's her name? Yes, Bredewold. So they just win left and right. And then I haven't even spoken about Wiebes' individual victories outside of the Tour de France. So the list is just so long of victories for this team. And even with the fact that I feel like they could have won Roubaix, you're allowed to make a mistake here and there if you win everything else.
You are. Roubaix is probably the one big thing they're missing, although there's 2 other, for want of a better word, Grand Tours. They aren't 3-week races, but there's La Vuelta and the Giro. And La Vuelta, I think, was made one of the best races in cycling all season. The last 2 GC stages of that was unbelievable, with P-Gate, with Covadonga, which is back in the men's race this year, Vollering taking time but not enough, but Van Vleuten getting it done. And so, they didn't actually, like Movistar still challenged them a little bit, but 40 World Tour wins, more than even Visma Lease bike, and obviously there's less Women's World Tour races. They are statistically and clearly the most dominant team in all of cycling. Like, they could do what they wanted in every stage of the tour if they wanted to. And I don't think it's a good thing. Like, even with like Jumbo winning the 3 Grand Tours, also, And it's not just Jumbo winning all 3 Grand Tours. If you look at who's on the podium of all the Grand Tours the last 2-3 years, it's like UAE, Jumbo, Ineos. 90% of them, I haven't checked the stats, but it's a high proportion of them. And you've got SD Worx, who are even more dominant than any of those one teams.
That's very true. And the thing I'm wondering right now is, a few weeks ago, a report came out, I think half December somewhere, about the finances of both men's World Tour and women's World Tour teams. When it comes to women's World Tour teams, the average budget of a women's World Tour team is 3.8 million, and the median budget is 3.6 million. I expected that to be higher because I expected the difference between SD Worx and the other teams to be quite significant. But then I thought about it, and is it because the constant costs of a women's World Tour team are a higher proportion of the total budget versus a men's team? As in, they have to do all the race days. The salary is just a significantly less portion, you know?
The flights aren't cheaper because you're a women's team. The fixed costs are a high proportion. That's right. That's why, a team like Ineos could spend a much higher proportion of their overall budget on rider salary, the talent, than Intermarché Cofidis. Same applies in women's cycling. And it's probably even more drastic in that if you get an extra $1 million to spend on a rider salary, you gotta get Lorena Wiebes and the best young talent and more. So that's what's happened. But listen, credit to SD Worx. They put the money in, and the other sponsors, Spesh, I presume, and they probably got the best ROI in cycling just about. SD Worx and Spesh with this women's team. They win the Tour of 4 stages and everything else just about. So credit to them. At least they're putting the money in, they get the results out. But yeah, hard to really knock that season, to be honest. But also, they should win everything. They had the best classics rider, the best GC rider, and the best, the best sprinter. So that should generally mean you win a lot of races. But now onto their transfers. We're going to see if the strong get stronger. Actually, not much happening with respect to their transfers, SD Worx. In fact, there's just one each way, Benji. Sinafray, who wasn't really part of the main team's success in the big races this year, what is she going and doing?
Well, basically, she was a short track mountain biker, I think 2021 world champion, if my mind serves me right. And I would expect her to continue that journey more because she's leaving the team and hasn't necessarily decided what team to go to. So I'm guessing that's the path she's taking.
Olympics.
Maybe the road side of the Olympics, for example. That's an important. But she could have also stayed on SD Worx while going on that journey. But it seems like she's going to be focusing all out on that. Is how I perceive this trip, this step. But the incoming transfer then, because there's only one, like you say. One outgoing, one incoming. Don't change a winning team is how I perceive it. Femke Gerritsen from Park Hotel Valkenburg. And I think that team's now being called Volker Wessels in 2024, if I recall correctly. But Gerritsen basically was, I swear last year they signed the likes of Bredewold, also from Park Hotel. And I had a list of 3 riders that I expected to go to World Tour at some point. And Gerritsen was on that list. And she's a solid domestique for Hill Classics. It's not like she has the results where you'd expect her to become a leader at SD Worx, but you also need domestiques at a team like this. And I think Gerritsen fits that role. Top 40s at Hill Classics, so she can play an early role there. And then Eva at Vallevarezine also confirms that Hill Classic quality. But I think her best result was probably 23rd at Strade, because outside of some other results in smaller races, 23rd at Strade, you need to be at a pretty damn good level to reach that, right?
Yeah, I think so. And she just looks like a solid rider. There's Elena Cecchini, who's one of the most important domestiques, but can she really help on the hills? They have younger riders in Shackley as well for the hills, but I think they could do with a bit more help in that regard. Christine Majerus is 36 now and is in the last year of her contract, so maybe that's the role they see Gerritsen going into. That would make sense to me. But yeah, they also have like Marie Schreiber, who we haven't really seen with the World Tour team in the last part of the year because she rode, she DNF Tour de Suisse and then rode Tour de l'Avenir, where she was pretty solid. She looks like another sort of all-rounder, 20 years old, and she joined them in March last year, but maybe she's someone we also see a bit more of. Not a transfer, but they also have a lot of young riders, SD Worx, already on the team. All these riders under 25 years old.
Yep.
Gerritsen, Bredevold. Can I count? I can't. Schreiber, Shackley, Fischer-Black, Uniken, Blankovac, and Wiebes also is under 25 years old. So they're here for now and probably the future as well.
I'm curious about the likes of Lonneke Uniken, because I swear there was this moment 2 years ago, was it 2022 Ronde van Drenthe or something? I recall her competing or being competitive in one of those races, and I feel like she's somewhat stagnated a little in 2023. Yes, she's actually won a stage in the Lotto Thüringen Tour, which is good, but she hasn't crossed into that level where she's really that rider that could step up in the way that a Bredewold is stepping up when it comes to the likes of Broe and so forth. So she's a bit of a sprinty type. So I'm curious where that goes. Still 23. There's still a solid margin of growth possible there. And that's the crazy thing about this team. They've got their crazy riders like Demi Vollering, probably at their peak level, but you never know. She might even get better. Kopecky, really bloody strong at the moment. Wiebes, best sprinter in the world. They've got the best rider in so many categories. Reusser as well, arguably one of the best TTers in the world. And then you look at the list of their entire team, and there's so much that is still potential growth. And Blankovac is also one of those riders, like the Hungarian rider. A stage 1 in Giro in July. Yeah, because that's early Tour de France.
Yeah, that was her bounce
She won a
back.
stage at Tour de Suisse as well. I agree. She had a bit of a bounce back after maybe a season where we expected her a little more. Maybe we just expected a bit too much from her last year. Because, again, this is a rider of 22. And it's not because she's on SD Worx that she will kick off the year after she's joined, for example. But I reckon Vos is also making the step up again this year. And it's like, I'm high on the Fem van Empel train at Visma Lease bike, but I'm also still pretty high on the Blankovac train when it comes to her results coming in the future, because winning a Giro stage is not super easy, and she pulled that off, so deserves the credit for that. And that's, I think, a reduced group sprint against the likes of Persico, Dijgert, and so forth after a bit of a harder race, if I recall correctly. Vos was in the group, but didn't sprint to her best abilities, if I recall. But outside of this, we've gone through a list of riders here. We've gone through the results they got in 2023, which is hard to top. 62 wins with 40 World Tour wins, hard to top. But what would you say is the expectations? More of the same, right? If you can pull that off once and you don't change your team much, you don't change your winning team, then I think the goal for 2024 is that same team to try and get as many victories as possible, try to win whatever race you join, and in addition, try to have Kopecky win Roubaix this time, and try to have Vollering win more than one of the big Grand Tours.
I think that's it. It's like win all the major one days. Win Liège, Tour of Flanders, Roubaix, Strada, Binder, and Plouay's big as well. They already won that. Win the World Championships with Vollering. Somehow, win the Olympic Games road race. I don't know if Van der Breggen will be the DS also there for the Netherlands of Vollering. I know it's not SD Worx, but actually that would be against Kopecky. That's probably going to be the best race of the year. World Champs in the Olympic Games road race. Win the Giro. Can Vollering do the triple? Can she? Because AVV, she's following up the GOAT. Can she do the triple of the Giro, Vuelta, and Tour de France Femme in 1 year? That's something you have to set new goals to tick new things off. Otherwise, you'll get bored or demotivated. So, and they have to set them high. I feel like... Oh, sorry. Huh?
Is it harder to combine with the Olympics coming in before the Tour de France Femme, the triple?
Yes, I think so. I think because the men have the Tour de France to peak for the Olympics. Am I wrong in saying that I feel like the train for Vibers wasn't the best? Like, I feel like Vibers won because she is the best, right? And in 2023, she won double-digit races, 12 races, most at World Tour level. But in 2022, she actually won double the number of races on DSM. So I feel like the
I
train
think.
hasn't, like, they got Guarishi, she's great, right? But
Mhm.
I think Vibers is suffering, and this is maybe the bigger point I want to talk about. How do you manage all these superstars on this team? And I'm putting even Royster
Yeah.
in that category. Like, Royster clearly, you know, she's even said some things where she's like, well, I'm happy. I guess the team is happy they won today in the tour
Yeah.
or something. I was like, okay. How do they keep all these riders happy?
It's a good question because I agree when it comes to Ubers that she's had more victories in previous years, but there's so many races this year where she ended up winning the sprint behind Kopecky winning the race,
Yeah,
which it's all part of that team-based strategy where if you join this team, then they're gonna try and win with the team, and that shows with Kopecky ending up winning those races because the logical strategy in a classic is you try to attack with Kopecky. If she gets away, then she might win. If she doesn't get away, then Weebus is behind to try and take care of it. And this goes even further if you have someone like Royster that attacks early. So they try and anticipate with Royster. If she gets caught, you've got Kopecky to attack. If she gets caught, you've got Weebus. So it's this whole stepping process of leaders that are kind of chained behind in the same way that Wout van Aert has been chained behind in a few races in the past. So it's kind of like that logic will hurt Wiebes in certain races because
yeah.
Kopecky is just good enough to win those races if she actually gets away. But if the
And I'm
train
not
was
sure it
necessarily
helps.
weaker, go ahead.
That's the thing. Does it help Vibers being on SD Works? Because if you are just the fastest and you just have a team that controls the stage, she wins and does a
I
lead up. Is the
think
answer well? No, because in reality, if she's on a different team, Kopecky attacks on stage one of the tour anyway and still wins solo.
I think the answer to that is that I think Wiebes at SD Works is more versatile than any Wiebes we've seen before. And as a consequence of that, she will win a more broader variety of races at SD Works unless she could have replicated that versatility on a different team, which she hadn't before. She was
True.
pretty good at Drenthe once at DSM, for example, but she's not as versatile as she is at this team. So I see the big difference there. The variety in the amount of races she wins, as in, if everything goes right, it is not impossible that there's a scenario where Wibbes might end up in a winning situation in the likes of RVV, for example, which is somewhat crazy to think about. But that is not impossible because of the team situation at SD Works. And that goes for many other races that she might not be in that position for in the first place. Second factor, whether her sprint train's weaker, we know that the DSM sprint train, in my opinion, is the best in block.
Yeah.
But I think Warishi is still one of the two best leadouts in the world. So at UAE Tour, we saw some leadouts of her where I was like, okay, this shows that she has that adaptability mid-sprint that we see in the likes of a Merku on the men's side, for example. And, well, in previous years, that is. And I feel like Warishi is really, really good when it comes to leadouts. So I wouldn't necessarily say that our leadouts are worse. It's more that Guarishi isn't sent to the Tour de France because Kopecky needs to be in that.
Yeah.
And then for stages that Wiebes might be able to compete, then they have to go for Kopecky because Kopecky might have 1% more chance of winning that race. So it's more the versatile uphill sprints. Oh my God. Are you seeing this?
If you're watching on YouTube, Benji just did a fireworks celebration for the double thumbs up. Is that from Mac OS update?
I have no clue what just happened.
Unbelievable. Your Wi-Fi is barely working today, but your computer's managing to set off fireworks.
Anyway, continuing with what I'm saying. Go ahead.
I think Royster was really good at the tour this year.
Yeah.
There was some weird stuff on the stage that who won? No, Northgard and her and Lippert like went solo? Was that stage from the
Yes.
breakaway?
Or Bauernfeind.
I
One
feel
of the
like
two.
they got to reduce the number of cooks in the kitchen at the tour. Like
I see that.
3, a sprinter, a classics rider, and a GC rider. And bear in mind, they only have teams of 7, not 8, is already a shitload of leaders. And I'm not saying Reusser did a good job on the Tourmalet. She was the only person there doing something. But I think they have to have keep Bredevold, and I think Majerus, and I would put in Fisher Black as a dedicated climbing domestique for Vollering. And then another... It depends. If Reusser wants to be a dedicated rouleur, that's the best rouleur you're going to get. I just don't know whether that fits in with her wanting Olympic gold in the TT.
The final factor that I also want to mention in those like cook in the kitchen stories is Kopecky has teased that she might not go to the Tour de France fam, which might change the entire dynamic of that race.
Really?
But also in addition to that, I swear the tactic that you have at SD Worx as the go-to strategy for the team is they always think, oh, everybody's going to look at us to chase. And then their strategy to avoid that at Roubaix, which backfired, into the France stages, which backfired a few times, is putting a domestique that could be beaten by other breakaway riders in the breakaway to the point that they've then got other riders from other teams with a better chance to win the stage than maybe their domestique in the breakaway, and they're kind of stuck behind. And that's happened a few times this year. So I've noticed that throughout 2023, that has been the go-to strategy, or should have been the go-to strategy for competing teams of SD Worx to try and benefit from the strategies that SD Worx applies. Try and put people in the breakaway, try and force them to put a domestique in the breakaway, and try and abuse that to try and get the victory your way. And that isn't necessarily to do with the... Well, actually, that is to do with Reusser at the Tour de France Femme. Because Lippert attacked, Reusser was in the wheel, right? In that one stage.
And she started relaying for a bit, no?
Yeah, and Lippert just kept going, because, like, why not? There's no value of Reusser being in that group, right? In that attack.
No. She was supposed to be pulling back the breakaway, and we actually saw multiple times. This was what was amazing in the Tour de France Femme. So disorganized was the chase that Phoenix de Koenig nearly won with a solo rider, and then did win with a solo rider like the next day. And then another break one with Norsgaard, and then Bauernfeind one, or Bauernfeind or Niedermeyer. Bauernfeind one. And
correct.
So I was surprised actually not to, because Roubaix is the blueprint. Like, you say, oh, how can you attack Lorena Wiebes? It's not so easy, right? To form a breakaway. You're not attacking Lorena Wiebes. You're not attacking her. You're attacking 3 domestiques. Maybe, you're attacking 3 domestiques whose level is not so dissimilar. Especially saying Neve Fisher-Black's taken as a dedicated climbing domestique. She's not stronger than Brodie Chapman on the flat in a flat start to a transition stage. So I hope we see more of that, not just in the Tour de France Femme next year, but in other races. Now, if I was SD Worx, I would just call bluffs in all the races I didn't care about. And so I would refuse to chase. In Gent-Wevelgem, I'll let the break win by 20 minutes. And then Roubaix, you've set the pattern, and then you take it, you change the tune.
But the problem is that I do believe they care about Gent-Wevelgem.
Yeah, they want to win. You don't line up.
They want to win as many World Tour races as possible. And I don't know, I also feel like we're not too harsh when we do point out the strategic moves that end up backfiring for SD Worx. And it's kind of like whenever their tactics in some races have been on point. They're like the strategy of having a Kopecky attack, Wiebes as defensive maneuver behind, stuff like that always seems to work for the team. So that works. It's just whenever I feel like the strategy that they do apply, the one we just spoke about, the one where they put a domestique in the breakaway, to me that sounds like arrogance. That's like trying to kind of like say of, okay, we're not gonna pull. See, This is what happens when we don't pull, and then it backfires.
Yeah, I mean, I would pick your spots to do that. I think sometimes they've tried to
Yeah.
do that in races they actually cared about. Like they tried to do it for like a 10K, 15K period. No one pulls. And then like, oh shit, Kristen Faulkner in Strata is like going to win just about. And she didn't in the end. But that one was one that maybe Faulkner's a little bit more aero that day. She wins the race because... So that's the only... It's an impossible. It's not even. It's like a cloud. No, sorry. Yes, it's the opposite of a silver lining to every cloud. It's like they have so much to look forward to. They should dominate. They should win the Tour de France. Because they're so good and so many of their riders are so good and want to win so much. I look through the roster and see, okay, how are they going to do that as a team in a lot of these races and keep everybody happy? That's going to require, because they got good climbing domestiques, as I said, in Shackley and in Fisher Black, but they need, like, Bredevold's got a huge job to do, I think, as a domestique in those races. So that's the only query I have, is how that's going to work and how they're going to keep, do we see a repeat of the Strada Bianca situation? Like, how do you stop people sprinting each other and then being mad at the end of races? Because when people
Vollering
can
came
both
out
win.
About that story again, right? As in, back in the day when she shouted Kotwaev at someone. Everybody thought it was about at Kopecky because that's the most logical scenario.
I think it was about Faulkner, no?
Yeah, but she now said that
Faulkner gave
2
a big
months
don't
ago.
argue.
She now said that in December, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
That story wasn't being said for the first 8 months after the event.
No, that was weird. There were weird vibes there for sure. They didn't look at each other after the finish. That was weird.
They were not happy with each other.
I'm all for teammates sprinting each other, but I feel like they didn't know they were both of them didn't know they were sprinting each other. Like, I feel like last year, by the way, put this on the record, I'm done with gifts. I'm fucking done with gifts. I've seen enough of them. I don't care. Fight each other. Sprint each other. If Van Aert is solo with Laporte this year, they better be damn sprint. I want Laporte to attack him out of a corner. I want sprint deviations. It's fair game.
I disagree in some shape or form. As in, I disagree on the SD Worx examples of Vollering rewarding Reusser for her work in other races by allowing her to tactically win, what is it, Itzulia?
Yeah. Or Swiss.
That's a good story.
Yeah. That's different. I mean, when they're two people clear, they got a gap. I need to see Harper and Plapp, Vollering and Kopecky did it right. No more fuzzy-duzzy feelings. I want to see sprinting.
They did it right, but they should know beforehand that they're riding against each other.
It should be clear that, okay, you girls are going to go for it against each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's... you mentioned Kopecky. She just won in the Europeans, like back-to-back gold medals.
Yeah.
Benji's already alluded to it. I think the Olympics is such a big deal, especially for the women riders, in that if you're a talent like Kopecky, you can clean with the road race, with the track, multiple medals, and you'd be aiming for multiple golds. So if you already have a podium, and realistically, she's not going to beat Vollering in GC at the Tour. She already got stage wins, already got second, already got the points jersey. So why would that be as big a focus as, okay, I can win 2-3 gold medals here? I can understand that. And same with Reusser. So maybe we do see a more balanced squad with a sprinter and a GC rider at the Tour with more domestiques. Maybe. We'll wait to see. Is there anything else from this team, Benji? Who do you think really breaks out and maybe joins the big 3 or 4 on this team out of the young guns? Is it Vash? Is it Unica? Is it Schreiber? Marcus? Fisher Black?
I don't know about seriously stepping up. I think Vosh will probably make a step up in my opinion. But to say join the big guns, I don't see that happening in 2024 necessarily. And the same with the likes of Bredewold, Marcus, and so forth. So I don't see that move necessarily, but it's also, this team doesn't need that. They don't need an extra bloody cook in the kitchen to have to handle. They want their riders to stay down there in the pit of domestique work for a bit. Come on, wait until at least one of our top riders leaves is what I would be thinking. But also, this is not the team that needs to make moves. As in, this is the team that was super successful. Yes, they had a bit of a failure in Roubaix. Yes, they had a few stages at Tour de France that kind of looked like they should have won instead. But outside of that, they're winning most of their races. So it's up to the other teams to deliver. And that's the thing that I'm most looking forward to, whether the others can step up and compete against this team and not necessarily whether SD Worx can step up and do even better than they already did. Because let's be honest about it, if SD Worx becomes better and the other teams stay relatively the same, half of the year will be unwatchable.
Yeah. Probably like if they're just basically deciding who's going to win today, because like literally in some stages you can see them deciding on the road who's going to win today. Before they're even solo, they're like, all right, you just go and win today.
The second voice who went in here into Evelgem, we knew it was the most boring classic of the year.
Yeah, finished. Well, the men's one. Oh, the men's one at least had action between first and second camel. That was all right. You had the Jakobsen, Shaspatat. Was on the radio telling him to go.
Brugge de Panne was probably the best classic in women's cycling last year. Cobble classic.
Yeah. I think Bredewold's going to step up. I think Bredewold is really good. I don't think it's a coincidence that she won Europeans and Plouay. I think she can win Paris-Roubaix. I would like to see her actually do more of the cobbled classics because she's tall, actually. I think she's like nigh on 6 foot. And so she has a lot of power under the bonnet. So I would like to see her do more of the World Tour cobble classics, although they do use her as a valuable domestique in the Ardennes. But I think she is the one that's going to get, in terms of one-day races, close to the superstars. And then in GC, I think it'll be Fisher Black. Will take a big step up. She's definitely going to be the most valuable dedicated climbing domestique for Vollering. So that's a key role for her and Shackley. But I think Fisher Black is the most likely to be the better one, and I'd like to see her perhaps used as a co-leader in maybe the Giro where she came 8th this year, or the Vuelta tactically with Vollering, and kind of like Koos in the Vuelta. I would like to see her get that chance. She doesn't need to be riding the front every time for Vollering, I don't think. Maybe Vollering won't do all three. I don't know.
Finally, I have a question for you.
See?
In the last few podcasts, every now and then, we've heard a little rainforest in your background.
Oh, sorry.
And
I didn't close the window. It's the cicadas.
Are you hiding in a rainforest somewhere?
No, there is a rainforest right there.
Really?
Sorry. People. I don't know if people complain. They just mentioned it, but yeah, they've just started because it's dusk. But yeah, there's rainforest behind me. Mate, it's rained here every day. I got a mosquito bite. Look at that mosquito. Well, it's a mosquito bite on the scarring on my arms. It's painful. Yeah, but that's why you can hear them as cicadas. And there's a rainforest. It's rained here. The rain here has been crazy. It's rained every day. I still got out this morning, but man, it's been so humid. You don't even understand. Like, you would perish here, I think, Benji. Like, you would literally, you would see it's 28.
It's raining here every day too. It's just not as hot.
Yeah.
Probably.
But you would see it was 28. You'd be like, that sounds fine, 28, 29. But the humidity is 94%. So the actual humidex, so how your perception of the heat is 41. So to me, it feels like Spain, 38 is nicer than this. 38, 40 in Spain is not. Sorry, anyway. That's all from us.
That's not great.
I think on the SD Worx preview, they're the best team in the world. They had a pretty... Oh, yeah, actually, on the last point, what did you think of given that they were half of it, the specialized ball gown photos, when they're all in the suits and ball gowns?
Honestly, I found it bloody epic.
Yeah, I think it was cool.
I think it was pretty cool. It
just
actually
something different.
Yeah, Asgreen looked a bit weird, but no offense.
Yeah, Asgreen and Jalla, I was like,
you reckon it's photoshopped?
I've got to look closely. I only looked at my phone bleary in the morning at 4:45.
Is it an AI picture? That's the question.
Oh, it's been touched up. Yeah, it's been touched up for sure. I mean, is that what you mean by Photoshop? Like,
yeah.
I mean, we Photoshop our thumbnails.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, how they look very airbrush. Do you mean literally? Were they all in the same room at one time? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the thing I'm wondering. I don't think they were.
Oh, you don't reckon they were? I think you're right. You don't reckon they're all in the same room? I think you're right. I think if you look at the dress of Kopecky and Vollering and their legs in front of Roglic, it looks like he's been inserted there behind them. No, it doesn't look like he's in front of that turbine. That's a good question. All right. That's all from us today. Hope you enjoyed the SD Worx preview. We'll be back with a combined Canyon, Movistar, and Little Trek preview next week. And we'll see you with probably another special pod on Sunday or Monday. Until then, ciao.